The Civil War's most lethal marksman never wore a uniform. He wasn't celebrated as a champion. He was just a Tennessee homesteader radicalized by a war crime history conspired to erase. While newspapers glorified Grant and Sherman, Jack Henson, a mourning patriarch wielding a specially made .50 caliber long rifle, systematically hunted Union troops with such deadly efficiency that he changed combat forever. The notches on his rifle's stock still testified to over 100 confirmed eliminations, yet official records purged his existence. The reason? His saga reveals wartime truths too uncomfortable for textbooks. A father's retribution, a military's dread, and gun reports that reverberated decades after surrender. First, help us preserve forgotten history. Hit like and subscribe to strengthen our storytelling collective. When war fractured the nation, Jack Henson stood among Tennessee's elite, a prosperous slave-owning planter in Stewart counties between the river's territory near Dover. The region derived its name from being sandwiched between the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers, roughly 100 miles northwest of Nashville. Modern visitors to the Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley recreation areas unknowingly tread upon what was once Henson's vast estate, landscapes forever altered when TVA engineers flooded the valleys with dams. Initially, Henson clung to non-alignment, valuing his Bubbling Springs plantation's survival over partisan loyalty. Too elderly for compulsory service, he actively dissuaded his sons from joining the fray, demanding they maintain the family's agricultural enterprise. Yet rebellion ran in the blood. One son disregarded his father's dictates to don Confederate gray. These twin waterways functioned as crucial logistical arteries for both armies, a tactical imperative that forced Washington to deploy Ulysses S. Grant westward with explicit instructions to dominate these aquatic highways. Federal forces initially secured Paducah, Kentucky, before setting their sights on two rebel strongholds: Fort Henry on the Tennessee River and its more formidable counterpart, Fort Donelson, guarding the Cumberland. The latter's defensive earthworks stood barely a stone's throw from Henson's Bubbling Springs property, dragging his homestead into the war's violent orbit. Fort Henry folded quickly under Union assault, but Fort Donelson became a grueling three-day bloodbath that shattered Confederate hopes in the West. Though the battle minted Grant's reputation as a bulldog commander and marked the South's downward spiral, Henson clung to his neutrality, struggling to maintain crops and family stability under the Union garrison's shadow. Occupying troops at Fort Donelson watched the planter with quiet unease but initially exercised restraint. Then came autumn, and the unraveling. Confederate guerrillas, dismissed as bushwhackers by frustrated Union reports, launched increasingly brazen hit-and-run attacks near Dover, picking off blue coat patrols with lethal precision. As federal body counts grew, these shadow warriors morphed from nuisance to existential threat and shattered Henson's fragile détente with the occupiers. Union High Command's response was merciless, a blanket order to exterminate bushwhackers without mercy or prisoner-taking. It was under this kill-on-sight edict that Henson's sons, ages 17 and 21, left home one crisp fall morning to hunt deer. The brothers never made it home. A Union patrol intercepted them, branded them bushwhackers without evidence, and slaughtered them on the spot. But the soldiers weren't finished. They severed the boys' heads, carried the grisly trophies back to Bubbling Springs, and mounted them on the plantation gates as a warning to the entire county. The horror broke something in Jack Henson. Outwardly, he maintained the rhythm of plantation life, but behind closed doors, the grieving father was engineering something unprecedented, a one-man war that would rewrite the rules of engagement. His wealth became his arsenal, funding a weapon unlike any other in the conflict. Henson commissioned a master gunsmith to build a .50 caliber muzzleloader with revolutionary precision, a sniper rifle decades ahead of its time. He trained relentlessly, transforming himself from a skilled hunter into a human killing machine. By day, he played the subdued farmer. By night, he studied Fort Donelson's patrols, memorizing every officer's face, every routine. His first targets were deliberate: the patrol commander who ordered his son's execution and the sergeant who placed their heads on display. Both died with a single shot from the shadows. As bluecoat officers began falling with disturbing regularity, panic spread through the ranks. Henson's calculated strikes, always against leadership always at maximum psychological impact, made him a legend before anyone knew his name. The Union response was brutal. Mass arrests, torched farms, and a shoot-to-kill order for any suspected guerrilla. When soldiers finally came for Henson, only a Dover doctor's intervention spared him from the noose. That night, under cover of darkness, the sniper turned his back on Bubbling Springs forever. He ferried his family 40 miles west across the Tennessee River, but his war was far from over. With his family secured, Jack made the agonizing choice to disappear, knowing his presence anywhere near them would paint a target on their backs. He rode deep into the wilderness until he found it, a jagged riverside bluff hiding a shallow cave. This unremarkable crevice, unknown even to most locals, would become both his sanctuary and his killing ground. Inside that damp hollow, with only his custom 50 caliber rifle and a few meager supplies, the farmer who once prized his land became something else entirely. The cave's mouth overlooked a cruel twist in the Tennessee River, where the current squeezed between a small island and the shore, a natural bottleneck Union transports couldn't avoid. Back at Bubbling Springs, Union troops, furious at Henson's escape, put the plantation to the torch. The flames consumed everything, including the quarters of formerly enslaved people Jack had freed before Lincoln's proclamation. These men and women, who'd been working the land as free people, could only watch as their hard-won stability turned to smoke. When Jack crept back to see the ruins, the scorched earth spoke louder than any battle cry. The man who'd once valued neutrality above all now had nothing left but vengeance. From his cliffside perch, Jack's new routine unfolded with deadly precision. Watch through his telescopic sight as Union boats struggled against the churning current. Wait until officers stood clearly in his crosshairs. Execute with single shots to heart or head. The river turned into a shooting gallery. Supply runs became suicide missions. Union crews grew terrified of that God-forsaken bend, where death came silently from nowhere. Between kills, Jack lived like a ghost, surviving on food smuggled by loyal locals, visiting his family in fleeting midnight meetings, then returning to his cave before dawn. Even after Appomattox, the war never really ended for him. The cave's walls held the echo of every shot fired, every life taken. The river kept flowing. The ghosts stayed hungry. History remembers Jack Henson as the deadliest precision shooter of his era, a man who claimed over 100 lives with nothing but a custom muzzleloader and intimate knowledge of the land. After the war, he faded into obscurity near Danville, running a grain mill and general store through Tennessee's turbulent Reconstruction years. But peace never truly came. Even in his later years, the ghost of the Cumberland slept with one eye open. Bitter Union veterans still hunted the man who'd picked off their comrades with terrifying efficiency. His weapon, that infamous .50 caliber rifle, its stock carved with over 100 grim notches, survived him. Now preserved by descendant Judge Ben Hall McFarland in Murfreesboro, the rifle occasionally emerges from museum exhibitions, its barrel still whispering secrets of a war fought outside the history books. Henson died quietly in 1905, far from the blood-soaked riverbanks where he made his legend. But the questions linger. Was he a Confederate hero, a war criminal, or just a broken father who turned grief into ballistics? The Union torched his plantation, but couldn't extinguish his wrath. Grant won the Western Theater, but Henson's ghost still drifts through the Cumberland's mist. We memorialize generals and battlefields, but who writes the rules when war becomes personal? When a single rifleman armed with nothing but loss and a .50 caliber bullet can terrorize an entire army? Somewhere in forgotten letters, in unmarked graves along the river, the real story lingers. How many final letters home never arrived? How many Union soldiers scribbled their last words? "Dear Mother, today I saw the ghost." Was this Civil War sniper a hero or a war criminal? Jack Henson died in 1905, not on a battlefield, but in a quiet Tennessee town. His rifle outlived him, its notches still whispering secrets. Was he a hero, a monster, or just a father who refused to let the world forget his son's screams? One thing's certain, war writes its rules in blood, but vengeance writes its own. Let us know in the comments section if you'd have grabbed that rifle too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We dig up the story's history buried.